We have several statements. If you still have some energy, or you can wait for the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I realize on the request for a statement on the form of Form 1 intake in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I realize pursuant to Order 53, Section 1, to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the Form 1 intake in the country. In the statement, the committee should outline the criteria for selection and procedure followed in enrolling students in Form 1 in Kenya. State the efforts that are taken into consideration when allocating Form 1 position to a student, giving reasons why students are seldom enrolled to the schools they select. Explain why these students, some of whom are 14 years old or younger, are made to travel extra long distances across several counties to join Form 1 classes, yet they are equally good schools within their counties. Fourth, provide details of what happens to Form 1 positions when students fail to report to the schools they had been selected to join. 5, clarify whether there are any plans by the Ministry of Education to streamline the procedure in order to ensure a better process during future Form 1 selections. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a very, very important affair, and we would want the Committee on Education, owing to the fact that some of the people are as young as 14 years, they do address it.
That will be well handled by the committee. We have to, let us have all the statements then. You keep your comments. We have two statements from the Senator for Kisumu County. Professor Odiamboton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I have two statements this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first statement is on disaster preparedness in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding disaster management preparedness in Kisumu County. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee should, 1, give details on the initiatives the county government has taken to guarantee disaster management readiness, prevention, mitigation, response and recovery in case of a disaster. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, state whether the county has a well-equipped firefighting brigade with an adequate and well-trained staff complement capable of managing disasters in the county, noting that in the recent past, the county has been faced by fire disasters in trading centers such as Katito, Paponditi, amongst others, most of which received no response from the county government. Thirdly, to indicate whether the county government of Kisumu has conducted public trainings on fire safety and first aid, and if there are public emergency lines that locals can call in the event of a fire break. And lastly, list the number of fire-related disasters in Kisumu County in the past 12 months, stating the nature of the response by the county fire department and the amount of loss and damage that impacted and that the people have suffered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, my second statement is on the invasion of the Ahero rice fields by Kelea birds in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on the invasion of the rice fields by Kelea birds in Kisumu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, appraise the Senate of measures put in place by both the national government and the county government of Kisumu to control the invasion of rice fields of a Ahero irrigation scheme by thousands of Kelea birds that are destroying hundreds of acres of rice plantations each day. Secondly, to state the measures in place to compensate farmers in a hero irrigation scheme whose rice plantations have been destroyed by cholera birds, noting that rice farming is the only means of livelihood for residents of Ahero and Kano. Thirdly, to state the efforts put in place, if any, to improve rice production in Kabonyo, Kanyagwal, and Ahero schemes. And lastly, to outline preventive measures and policies, if any, that the ministry has put in place to contain killer birds in order to ensure that rice farmers' hard efforts are in future not ruined by birds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Next is Senator Enoch. You can see he's not around. Senator Mohamed Chute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm requesting for a statement on the acquisition and distribution of relief supplies by the county government of Marsabit and the neighboring county governments. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the acquisition and distribution of relief supplies by the county government of Marsabit and the neighboring county governments sourced by the county's development fund. In the statement, the committee should, 1, disclose the nature, type, quality, packaging, and price of the relief supplies distributed to the residents of Marsabit, Mandera, Isiolo, Wajir, Samburu, and Turkana counties that have been severely affected by the drought. 2, provide a detailed list of beneficiaries and distribution channels used in supplying the relief supplies and water tracking per ward in all the affected counties. 3, state whether the projects were tendered for, providing details of who won the awards. 4, establish the total amount that has been utilized in the acquisition and distribution of relief supplies from the development fund in all the 6 counties. And outline, 5, if there are plans in place by the above-mentioned county governments to implement and shift to cash transfer programs so as to have more communities benefit from similar projects. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Chute. You have 2 other statements from Senator Murango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to request for a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on the ownership, status and revival of Mwea cotton ginnery. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a status report on the ownership of the parcel of the land occupied by Mwea cotton ginnery, detailing the acquisition process of the land, its acreage, and the legal ownership. 2, inform the Senate of the governance and administrative structures of Mwea cotton ginnery before it corrupts. And 3, state measures, if any, the government has put in place to ensure that the Mwea cotton ginnery is revived to cater for the renewed interest in BT cotton growing in Kirinyaga County, resulting from the need to diversify to more resilient crops variety due to ground bombing. Mr. Speaker, the second statement Again, on the same standing order 53.1, I stand to seek the statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the registration and welfare of people living with disability, PWD. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the number of persons registered with the National Council for Persons with Disability, NCPWD, as living with disability from the year 2022 to date. 2, inform the Senate on the process of registration of persons with disability, PWDs, recommending ways to simplify the procedure and make registration services more accessible. 3, outline the criteria used by the government to distribute assistive devices to PWDs, stating why a number of disabled persons still lack access to the necessary assistive devices, and further spell out measures, if any, put in place to ensure PWDs get assistive devices and attendant health services for their various forms of disability. And lastly, explain the cause for the increased number of people living with disability begging on the streets of major towns and urban areas across the country, and the steps being taken by the government, if any, to provide them with the necessary social assistance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Senator Yeduku Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to request for a statement on the status of land discharge process in Lamu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I raise person to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources for the status of land discharge process in Lamu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a status report on the settlement fund trustee mandated to settle residents on alienated government land or land purchased by the government from the private owners, stating how many settlements have been successfully completed in Lamu County since the relevant law was enacted and how many are pending. Number 2, cause the publishing of parcel of land in Lamu County under the custody of the settlement fund trustee, informing the Senate of accrued charges for each piece of land. Number 3, state the time frame upon which parcels of land charged by the settlement fund trustee should be transferred to residents of Lamu County after residents settled charges against their parcels of land. Number 4, state reason for the failure by the government to facilitate the discharge process of the said parcels of land, noting that this has had a negative impact on the growth of the county as the owners are unable to subdivide or make transfers. And number 5, Mr. Speaker, outline plans if any, the government has put in place to ensure the discharge process is hastened and a waiver is offered on the accumulated land rates. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Perry Sobiko, do you have a statement or yeah, sorry? Yes, proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I arise on Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on an issue of general topical concern, namely the unacceptable excessive force on disciplinary measures meted against our children by uncouth individuals. Mr. Speaker, children are a blessing who bring so much joy to their parents. The community and indeed the nation as a whole also considers them as an important asset. Further, Article 53(1)(d) of the Constitution expressly provides that every child has the right to be protected from abuse, neglect, harmful cultural practices, all forms of violence, inhuman treatment and punishment, and hazardous or exploitative labor. The rights of children have also been protected and preserved by a number of legislation, including the Children's Act 2022 and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, both the Education and Children's Act have given clear guidelines on how to correct pupils when they go wrong in the course of attending schools. Mr. Speaker, while I agree that it is important to mold and correct children, whether at home or in school, to ensure they grow knowing what is right and wrong as they are being brought up, this correction should not be punitive, embarrassing, or inflicting pain, and or to some extent, even grievous bodily harm. Mr. Speaker, there are three cases that have occurred over the recent past, which have greatly disturbed me and have led to this statement. The first incident is that of a widely circulated video clip of a scene allegedly in a school where teachers supervised a traumatic sexual molestation of young children against each other. The said clip drew countrywide attention to what may be happening to our children at the hands of perverted grown-ups who are expected to be protectors or role models and morally upright individuals. Mr. Speaker, the second one was an incident in Kuria where one young girl who had run away from home in order to escape from being forced to undergo female genital mutilation and had been under the protection of in a school. When she decided to go back home at the end of the holidays to prepare to return to school, she ended up being badly assaulted, whipped, and publicly humiliated by young men allegedly under the direction of her own brother. She has been accused of being a disgrace to her family for refusing to undergo FGM practice and opted to pursue education when schools resumed. This incident is unacceptable as the government has a whole department funded by taxpayers to champion anti-FGM practices among communities and to protect girls threatened by these traditions, cultures, and rituals. Mr. Speaker, a third incident that came to the public attention happened in Kisii area where a young man is bound up with ropes and whipped in front of a girls' parade in school as a punishment. Mr. Speaker, the scary question is, how many more graphic, horrible crimes against the right of children have gone unnoticed, unreported, or intentionally covered up? Whereas the above incidences may appear isolated and remote, it has prompted my concern regarding what kind of punishment is right. Mr. Speaker, what amounts to adequate correction, both within schools and in community environments? Mr. Speaker, I wish to condemn these heinous acts in the strongest terms possible. The acts have obviously traumatized the victims and may have permanent effect in their lives. Teachers, boards of management members, parents, and society in general should be dependable role models, mentors, and good moral champions to ensure such incidences do not continue happening in our society. We cannot stand by while children are brutalized and traumatized in the name of administering punishments. Mr. Speaker, let parents, guardians, and school administrators have compassion while correcting the children under their care whenever they err. we must all uphold respect for the rights of children as provided for in the laws. Anyone messing with children's lives should answer for their irresponsible and unbecoming conduct. I also call for psychological counseling to help remove the trauma visited upon these victims and many others in the society. As a leader and a mother, I am of the view that the Children's Department should work with the law enforcers to take appropriate action if and where necessary in order to safeguard children from abuse, neglect, and violence. Mr. Speaker, sir, last I beseech all leaders all over the country to ensure that the rights of children is safeguarded and protected against such evil deeds. Local leaders and communities, including all clergy and leaders of all faiths, should also remain vigilant and act swiftly whenever any person subjects children to such acts of that amount to either sexually molesting or excessive extreme punishment to the children. They are at their most critical formative and mind development stage, and we must be extremely careful regarding what we allow the minds of our children to pick. Our children must be brought up to be upright, moral, responsible, and law-abiding citizens. Our generation is responsible for the posterity we are preparing for this country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give one or two comments on these statements, starting with the Senator Akio Mtata, Senator of Busia County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Before I make my comments, allow me to recognize the presence of my constituents. Up to 10 teachers from Mudiawori Primary School, which is, by the way, is the best public primary school in Busia. So feel most welcome, and they are here by courtesy of the eminent retired former Vice President, the Honorable Mudiawori, who decided to give them a tour of the city in recognition of their performance. And while on the tour of the city, they said, you cannot visit Nairobi and not visit Parliament. So Parliament, so they are winding up their tour, and they have visited the National Assembly, and they are now visiting the Senate. So feel welcome, and thank you very much. As regards the statement made by the Honorable Senator Penina, it's obvious that something has gone amiss in this country. There's a lot of violence being visited upon our innocent children. And if you go back to the biblical times, if you look at what the Christ said,
what is it, Senator Peris Tobiko?
Yes, Peris Tobiko. Senator Peris Tobiko.
Okay.
Yes, if you go back to the biblical, to the New Testament, the Christ himself looked at children and said, to them belong the kingdom of God. So if we don't look after our children, we cannot claim to be Christians, or we cannot claim to be believers in anything. It means that we don't value what God values. And children are very vulnerable, children are defenseless, and there are very many videos that have gone around. And some of these videos, the modern cameras usually give the coordinates or the GPS locations of where these crimes happen. So when a video is recorded, any serious police should be able to pinpoint and arrest the perpetrators just by examining the video and looking at the coordinates of where it was recorded. So I hope that our police will be proactive in that, and also pray that the law on children, the Children's Act, be revisited and maybe higher sanctions be passed for people who abuse children, especially within the framework of schools and families where children should be feel the most safe. So as I stand to support this motion, I plead with this House that we rally behind the motion, the statement, and make sure that anybody perpetrating violence against children lives to regret it. And this violence against children should be taken further at the institutional level. I think that we should get to a point whereby the government should provide lunch for primary school children. It's extreme violence to have a child go to school on an empty stomach and expect the child to stay for all the hours that they go to school. So I think some form of a feeding program should be initiated. And for my brothers in the bottom-up formation, there's no better bottom-up than raising a child. Because you raise him from the bottom, you raise to a full human being. So within the bottom-up arrangement, let us find a formula for providing children with some form of food. If the former President Arap Moi, may his soul rest in peace, was able to give children milk when Kenya had a much smaller economy, when the budget, if you look at the budget of Kenya those days, was just in a few shillings, and he was able to do that. With our trillions that we do today, why can't we do that? Feed our children, and also support our farmers in the dairy industry who are struggling. I know where my brother Senator Cherargei comes from. Farmers are struggling to break even, and our feeding program could be one way of an affirmative action that would also support our farmers and also give us a win-win situation whereby our children go to school and at least are able to get, even if it's a bowl of soup or beans and maize, so that we don't just look at violence in terms of the whips and the kicking around, but look at violence in terms of sustaining a ritually neutral environment where a child can grow and thrive. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator Mutata. You know, we are limited by time. I want to give maybe one more senator. Senator Cherargei, you have done enough today. Let us give another senator, Senator Mutinda. That is enough for the Nandi people, what you sent in the early afternoon. Okay, proceed. Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes, kindly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I do rise to support the statement from our colleague, Senator Peris Tobiko, on the issue. And as a leader, as a parent, I agree that the joy as parents because of our children is something that is very godly and something that we actually are very proud of. What we've seen in the social media in terms of what is happening to our younger generation is actually a very sad state of affairs. And I want to quote Article 53, which states very clearly that the Constitution protects our children from abuse, from neglect, harmful cultural practices, all forms of violence, inhuman treatment, and punishment. And I would want to really humbly ask our authorities, as Senator Omtata has indicated, that these culprits can actually be apprehended and the justice be done to these children and sets an example to the generation that is coming up and thinking that this can just go free. Action needs to be taken. If it's not taken, and hence, Mr. Speaker, that is how we continue seeing children in our institutions of learning burning schools. If we do not take actions, if we do not actually condemn this much further, then we are going to get into more critical situations that we cannot even be able to get out. So to support Senator Perez on this statement, I urge that the law takes its course, the police be able to take action, and to the parents and to the learning institutions where we take our kids for the knowledge that they need to have. It is a high time that we also know as a country, we are in the year 2023. Things have changed, yes. We are in a very digital space with all the sort of gadgets that we have. We cannot say that we're going to deny the modernity that is in place, but at the same time, as parents, let us try and offer the parenting, offer more time to our kids, be able to communicate the morals for the betterment of our future generation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kandi, let's go to the next one. What is it, Senator Boni?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 52, 3, and 53, 3B. Mr. Speaker, just like today, week in, week out, from the last session, you have been referring these statements to committees. And Mr. Speaker, I never miss sittings. I'm yet to see a single chair of a committee bring here to table a statement in response to the issues members have been raising. Personally, Mr. Speaker, I'm waiting for the last 2 months for a statement on pending bills in Kakamega. And many senators in this House supported the request and brought in the need to address pending bills in their respective counties. Mr. Speaker, could you guide the House? A, should we expect those statements, responses to be tabled? And B, if should we, as we expect, what is the time limit? Some of the statements, Mr. Speaker, are on issues of security. You would want to know if, for example, Mr. Speaker, a senator has raised the issue of the police, the personnel deployed in an area and they are not up to it, where you would expect either they would be moved and so on, you would expect an answer. For how long shall we be waiting? Or we are speaking in vain in this House?
Senator Boni Karware, I hear you very well. The chairs have no obligation to report to the floor of the House, but now it means that your statement for 2 months has not been responded to by the relevant ministry. Because what the committee should do, the chair and his team, is to invite any senator who has raised any matter on this floor to the committee sitting. When maybe you summon the, when you summon the relevant offices, maybe the ministries, the CSs, and any other body. Who do you want to inform, Senator William Cheptumo? He is no longer on the floor.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, what Senator Kalwala is raising is really a concern. But Mr. Speaker, what we have been doing, I thought it's just good to share, is that once a member raises a question here or a statement, we take up the issues with the relevant ministry. When a written answer is obtained from the ministry, it is shared with the member. And if there are issues that are not sufficiently responded to in the statement, then we can still do a further inquiry from the department. I think that has been in this house, Mr. Speaker, that is really what happens around here. And it is interesting that perhaps Kalwale has not gotten a statement from the relevant committee 2 months after he raised the question. So I think the problem here is the procedure in which we used to inform members on the responses from the ministries, which is not what we used to do in the other house, Mr. Speaker, as you recall. You are a chair of a committee, I was one, and we used to read those statements before the plenary. So I think that is really the procedure we have now.
I can see some chairs have been agitated, including the chair who was my response, Chair Transport.
Mr. Speaker,
1 minute each, I'll give you.
I do not purport to speak on behalf of the other chairs, because of course you are the chair of the chairs. But all I would want to tell the Senator for Kakamega who have raised that issue is that the President had seen this problem. And that's why he proposed that we should be having ministers or the CSs at the floor of this House so that they can be answering questions with the speed that is required. Mr. Speaker, I think before pointing for any other chairman, because of course in my committee those who have requested statements have been written for, so that they can appear before the committee and see the responses that we have before we table them in this House. It's better we sit down as a Senate, even without waiting for the other, the National Assembly, that we come up with the right procedures so that we can be inviting those CSS in this House to answer those questions. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that because, and that's why I had a standing order waiting for your eye. For example, we do have a statement that was raised here by the Senator for Embu on the issue of delocalized teachers, Mr. Speaker. When I try to ask for the same statement with the tweak or with a little bit of difference, I'm told I cannot raise such a statement. Yet it is something that is, of course, in regards to the teachers who are working in other counties, but they come from Kiambu. Mr. Speaker, my teachers are suffering in Narok. My teachers all the way from Mount Kenya are suffering in Narok. But we cannot ask that statement because somebody asked that statement 2 weeks ago or 2 days ago. Yet that statement has not been answered to here. My request to you, Mr. Speaker, because you have that power, when you feel or when you look at a statement and see that it has some urgency, give it some timeline, Mr. Speaker. Tell the chair to give that answer within specific timeline, Mr. Speaker, so that we can have some statements that are answered or reported back to the House with immediate effect. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'm constrained with time, so I want to give Senator Ngururi 1 minute, kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really glad that Senator Halwale has raised this because it's an issue I've been dealing with personally. I'm not a chair. I was a vice chair, but I was de-whipped because I was also literally pushing for the efficiency of the business of a committee. I personally brought a statement, several statements to the floor of the House actually, concerning, some of them were issues on the Safaricom registration, issues on protecting Kenyans' data. And you know, Mr. Speaker, being in the committee as a vice chair, I could see the bureaucracy that was being practiced, not necessarily by the chair, but there was a lot of dynamics there. And so the efficiency of that committee actually, Mr. Speaker, allow me, do not cut me off. I have seen you. This is a very serious matter. And so therefore, I want to say, Mr. Speaker, if we are not going to give timelines, because can you imagine a statement I raised on registration of SIM cards last year has not been dealt with. A statement I raised on issues of ICT and protection of data, a simple thing such as actually just seeking information. We did not even deal with it. And the only thing that happened to me, Madam Speaker, is that I was de-whipped. And I was removed from that committee because I kept on demanding that the efficiency of the secretariat has to be put, into account. So, Madam Speaker, as we are dealing with all these statements, in fact, I have now learned I'm no longer bringing statements to the House. I'm bringing motions, I'm tabling bills, and I'm going to make as much noise as possible, because if the committees are going to continue dealing with issues to the effect that by the time they're bringing the reports, the matter is no longer relevant. How is it relevant on registration? Safaricom have done what they wanted to do. They've moved on. We still have not received any tangible. And as vice chair in that committee, I can tell you that there was a lot of bureaucracy that was engineered, and I've actually reported several issues with the secretariat. And so therefore, thank you, Senator Halwale, because this is the matter that I dealt with. And even if I'm not vice chair, I will be vice chair in this seat here, and I will ensure that we push for accountability so that our statements don't go down.
What's your point of order, Senator Cherargei?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Not the change on the chair. And congratulations. I can see you are wearing our party colors. Madam Speaker, when you look at the Secretariat, and I need guidance on this. Madam Speaker, when you look at Standing Order 52 and 53, 53(3)(b), the Speaker may allow comments in relation to the statement for not more than 15 minutes. I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, being aware that we are past statement hour. Number two, which I need your guidance. So Kenyans and everybody should know that when we give comments or when we write on statements of our colleagues, Mr. Speaker, it is provided under the standing orders. Number two, Madam Speaker, Standing Order 53(3)(3), Part 4B. Madam Speaker, I have had the benefit of chairing a committee, and it is known in the annals of history, this House, I was ranked the best. Not only the youngest, but the best. And then, Madam Speaker, the committee may invite the senator who requested the statement, the relevant cabinet secretary, or any other person the committee may consider during deliberations on the statement and prepare and table a report on the matter. Table. So I needed, Madam Speaker, we need to be fair. This is our standing orders. The standing order number 1 talks about the president, the tradition, the rule of law, the tradition of the parliament that has been set. It says, after the deliberations, the report must be tabled. Madam Speaker, what we are treated to is theater of absurd. Because if the chairpersons of these committees, and I know they had, Madam Speaker, the chairpersons of these committees are, in quotes, cabinet secretaries, or they are proposed. If they're having a problem accessing cabinet secretaries, the CSS, because I'm told some CSS might not be picking calls and PSS, yet the president is picking our calls, then they should say it. So that, because, Madam Speaker, last year, just what Senator Gloria said, I requested a statement on the Tokyo scandal of our athletes. No one has responded up to date. Because allegedly the CSS and PSS, and if the chairpersons are having a problem, Madam Speaker, they should be able to speak to the majority side and the majority leadership, including the majority whip here, and bring, so that they don't come and say, Madam Speaker, we cannot proceed because the minister or the PSS, even as we wait for the constitution to be amended, for CSS and PSS to sit here, we must be efficient and effective, because we are using money, resources from Exchequer, Madam Speaker. Finally, Madam Speaker, the part 2. The law says, and it is our standing order, unless we delete today, may prepare and table a report on the matter. Other senators, I can be invited to Committee of Social Welfare, Labor and Social Welfare. I can go and sit, deliberate. But maybe other senators are waiting for the report to be tabled to give their comments and transmit for implementation, Madam Speaker. So my request, Madam Speaker, even as we proceed on this matter.
Please wind up.
I'm winding up, I'm winding up, Madam Speaker, is that the report must be tabled. And therefore saying just we can go somewhere, sit with the committee, deliberate. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, as a friend of the committee, I don't have powers to sign the report nor vote on the report because I'm not a member of the committee. So where do I get my recourse? I get my recourse on the floor of the House among other colleagues. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
On that issue of statements, I hear your interjection, and from the reading of Order 53.3b, it is clear that a statement may be prepared and tabled on that matter. It would be good practice that chairpersons of the committee ensure that they conclude on statements that are raised against the committees, and they are encouraged to table. Though the wording of the order is that it may prepare and table a report on that matter, may then means it's almost discretionary, but the good practice would be that the committees or the chairpersons of the committees table a report so that issues are responded to and issues are given a closure. So I believe that should be the final intervention on that matter. And clerk, call the next. It's a point of order, Senator Mudigi. Okay. Make it very short.
Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga mkono yale yamezungumziwa hapa, kwa sababu kama ile mambo nisoma mambo ya elimu ni kitu ya kusangaza sana. Utaona itaendelea hivi na itaishia huko msituni, kwa sababu kama kuna sheria, hata rais alisema walimu wote warudi nyumbani kwao. Kama county tuko na jimbo 47, moja ni Embu. Walimu wa Embu wale wako Machakos, jimbo la Machakos, jimbo la Kitui, jimbo la Meru na jimbo la Kirinyaga. Tuwastuka sana kunasemekana hakuna mahali wataenda, kwa sababu kaunti ya Embu iko na walimu wengi. Lakini tunauliza, je, wakati wale walimu walipelekwa huko nje ya jimbo la Embu, wale walikuja, kunafaa kufuatiliwe ama komiti iende ifanye upelelezi inakuanji walimu wa Embu waesi kurudi Embu. Akina mama wako karibu miaka 60 wanalilia huko kwa mkubwa wa elimu. Kwa hiyo nauliza tufuatilie vizuri ndio walimu wa Embu waese kurudi, si ati kwa kupiga makoti, lakini tunajua kama itafanyika katika Embu tutaenda kwa hiyo ofisi ya walimu na tutafoma na hakuna mtu atasimamisha sisi, kwa sababu ni aibu kubwa sana. Kama kulikumbaliwa, si wale vile TSC ilipeleka wale iwarudishe na wale wengine waende nyumbani kwao. Asante, Madam Speaker.
I doubt whether that is an intervention or a point of order you are raising, but the point is noted. I doubt if that is a point of order. But I think the idea should be for the chairpersons of the committees to respond and do their work. And they should be encouraged to take stock of all the statements that have been tabled since the commencement of this House and proceed to make sure that we can widen up those issues that have not been responded to as a House. Clerk.
Order number 8, motion, adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023.
Call upon the chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, to move the motion.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report of Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 16 February 2023, and that pursuant to Section 17(7) of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order 189(3), the Senate approves the county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023. Madam Speaker, the county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule is submitted to the Senate by the National Treasury pursuant to Section 17 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012.
Section 17(7) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 requires that the National Treasury prepares cash disbursement schedule for the monies to be disbursed to county governments and transmitted to the Senate for consideration and approval. The National Treasury is also required to publish and gazette the approved disbursement schedule. Madam Speaker, the purpose of disbursement schedule is to ensure predictable transfers from the National Treasury to county governments of funds. Therefore, it serves as a guide and facilitates predictable flow of funds to county governments. This therefore enables counties to effectively plan implementation of targeted projects and programs in a systematic manner in order to deliver their critical functions. Madam Speaker, Parliament approved the county government additional allocation bill, which was Senate Bill number 4 of 2022 in November, and it was enacted into law. The President assented to it on the 12th of December 2022. Following the enactment of this law, the National Treasury transmitted to the Senate the county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023. This schedule was tabled in the Senate on the 14th of February 2023. Therefore, the disbursement schedule was committed to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for consideration and subsequent reporting back to the House. Madam Speaker, the committee has considered the cash disbursement schedule and tabled its report in the House for debate and adoption. Madam Speaker, the County Government Additional Allocation Act 2022, as well as the disbursement schedule, has a total of 163 million for conditional grant on supplement for construction of county headquarters and 17.159 billion on conditional allocation finance from proceeds of loans, grants, and from development partners. This conditional allocation from proceeds of loans and grants include the World Bank credit for national agricultural and rural inclusive growth amounting to 3.9 billion. World Bank credit for national agricultural value chain development project amounting to 1.82 billion. World Bank credit of Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture amounting to 2.2 billion shillings. The World Bank credit of water and sanitation development amounting to 3.5 billion shillings. Danida grant for primary health and develop system amounting to 1.018 billion shilling. The World Bank credit for financing locally led climate action FLOCA level amounting to 1.034 billion shillings. The Government of Sweden grant for agriculture sector development support program 2 amounting to 665.17 million. German Development Bank amounts, financing drought resilience program in northern Kenya to the tune of 410.
Senator, he's moving a motion. He's moving a motion. What is out of order?
Okay.
Not when moving a motion.
German Development Bank finance.
Finish moving the motion and then we will take the point of order.
Thank you. Financing drought resilience program in northern Kenya to the tune of 410 million, and World Bank credit for emergency locust response amounting to 1.2 billion. World Bank credit to finance Kenya informal settlement improvement, KISIP 2 amounting to 1.3 billion shillings. Madam Speaker, the committee considered cash disbursement schedule and observed the following: that the disbursement will be made in 2 tranches as commitment was made by National Treasury to be done 15th of March 2023 as well as 15th of April 2023, so that within the financial year 2022-2023, the disbursement can be realized. With only 4 months remaining to the end of the financial year, the county governments also need to expeditiously do the appropriation act in order to facilitate the flow of those funds. The disbursement of conditional allocation finance from the national government share of revenue also, we have noted, as it has happened before, will be subject to funds revenue collection of national government. The National Treasury, lastly on the observation, should comply with the schedule as they have indicated to make sure that within the remaining few months of the financial year, the 2 tranches as promised should also be realized. There is need for also the Senate as well as the county assemblies to tighten the oversight on these funds. Madam Speaker, the committee recommends the following: that the Senate approves the county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023, tabled in the Senate on the 14th of February 2023. Number 2, the county assemblies should also expedite passage of appropriation bills to ensure that the funds are assessed upon disbursement from National Treasury. And the National Treasury should adhere to the approved disbursement schedule and the proposal they gave of disbursing the entire amount in 2 tranches as required. Madam Speaker, finally, the committee acknowledges National Treasury's effort for their submission of county government additional allocation cash disbursement schedule, which is critical requirement for execution of county government budget. The committee also thanks the Office of the Speaker and the Clerk of the Senate for the support extended to the committee in execution of the mandate. I also wish to thank the members of the committee for their patience and also steadfast in making sure this has been promptly processed. Madam Speaker, I beg to move and call upon Senator Kalwale to second the motion. Thank you.
What is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I didn't want to interrupt my good friend, Senator Roba, but this is a house of rules, and I'm rising on point of order number 41, because when I look around, we don't have a quorum to transact business in this house. Point of standing order number 41, and I can read it out, Madam Speaker, which talks about the quorum during proceedings of the Senate. 1, if at any time in the course of the proceedings of the Senate, a senator objects that there is not a quorum present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall count the senators present in the Senate or in the committee as the case may be. 2, if on the account under paragraph 1, a quorum does not appear to be present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall cause the division bell to be rung as a division, and if no quorum is present at the expiry of 10 minutes, the 10 minutes A, the Speaker is in the chair, the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate until the next sitting without a question being put. So, Madam Speaker, we don't have a quorum, and the substantive Speaker was very clear that this Senate henceforth should strictly comply to the standing orders. So I'm asking you to comply to standing order number 41 on quorum during Senate proceedings.
Mr. Clerk, can you confirm whether we have quorum in the House? I would. We have 14 senators. How many senators? 14. Can you count? Count again? Just count again. I authorize the bell to be rung for 10 minutes. We now have quorum. Can you stop the bell? The House resumes. Senator Osotsi, resume your seat. Senator Halwale, continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to second this motion as moved by the chair of the committee. Madam Speaker, before I second this motion, I think one of the milestones in the last session was when we passed the bill that was for additional allocation of revenue, Madam Speaker. And I was pleased during the recess, Madam Speaker, to see His Excellency the President ascend it into law, something which is unprecedented. The Office of the Clerk will tell you that not many parliaments have been able to make law in the first session, but we did, Madam Speaker. I therefore congratulate the President and congratulate colleagues, members of Parliament, the Office of the Clerk, and everybody else who made this industry to come to its fruition. Madam Speaker, why should I commend this? It's because this law, the additional allocation of funds, has paved way for better delivery of health services across the 47 counties. And Madam Speaker, I'm so glad that my county, Kakamega, thanks to this bill, was able to access in excess of 982 million shillings. I want to congratulate the governor of Kakamega. I have seen he's been moving around the sub-counties trying to give out additional supply of drugs, and I want to urge him to give priority out of this particular vote. He should he should avoid the temptation, Madam Speaker, of wanting to channel this money into recurrent expenditure. He should ensure that this money is purely for development within the sector of health. Madam Speaker, as I say this, if you allow me to quote Swahili, Waswahili husema, mkema kisifiwa, pombe ulitia maji. Having congratulated the governor, he might be thinking that he's doing very well on this particular allocation. I beg to differ. I would like him to desist from the temptation to give money favoring certain counties at the expense of others. We are certain sub-counties at the expense of others. We are a huge county, 2.5 million people, 12 sub-counties, 60 wards. Everybody is in dire need of good health. And therefore, he should play the principle of equity to make sure that this money is felt in every corner of the county of Kakamega. Madam Speaker, the chairman, in moving this motion, has spoken to the issue of the disbursement schedule. Colleagues, members of parliament, may I remind you, and I think you know, that we have the 15th day of the month rule, which was intended by the Second Senate to ensure that on the 15th day of the month, in every account of every county, the famous county revenue fund, by 15th month, the national government should have deposited money into that account. I want to appeal to colleagues, let all of us 47, plus all our delegation, ensure that we are in constant communication with our governors. They be assuring us on the 16th day that yes, the 15th day of the month rule has been respected by the national government, failing which we convene in this house and put pressure on the national treasury to make sure that this money goes to the county revenue accounts. And indeed, Madam Speaker, this is what we are there for, because under this constitution, Article 96, we are expected to protect the interests of the counties and the county governments. Madam Speaker, a message to governors. Governors must resist the temptation to start new projects. It is there, and I don't want to cast aspersions at all on all governors, but some unscrupulous governors, there are a few of them, who are rushing to start new projects so that they can go into little arrangements with the companies and individuals from whom they are procuring these services for personal gain. I want to appeal to them to speak to stalled projects and ensure that ongoing projects do not get stalled again. Why, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, you are a senior lawyer in this country, and you know the principle in law of perpetual succession of government. The principle of perpetual succession of government demands to succeeding governments to ensure that the projects and programs of the projects that they are succeeding are continued to their completion. It's painful, Madam Speaker, that you come to a great county like Kakamega, which enjoys a budget, an annual budget in excess of 15 billion, Madam Speaker, and you go there and you find over a period of 10 years of devolution, during which, Madam Speaker, the governor handled in excess of 200 billion shillings. 200 because there is the donor funding aspect that normally comes in and the additional funds that have been getting. So in a period of 10 years, the governor has handled 200 billion. And what is on the ground? Bohongo Stadium has stalled. Teaching and Referral Hospital in Kakamega has stalled. Shiamahubu Hospital in Shinyalu Sub-County has stalled. Tumbeni Milk Dairy Project in Malaba constituency has stalled. Khayega Market, Khayega Market in Shinyalu constituency, Malinya Market in Ikolomani constituency, Nambaja Market in Nabaholo constituency, Nabaholo Market in Nabaholo constituency. They have all stalled, Madam Speaker. Despite 200 billion.
Senator Halole, which one is that which is hey,
That is the musical way of saying ETC, 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 and many others.
That's a new one.
Yes, Madam Speaker, you know I keep on learning from my young children. They teach me many things. These days they don't tell me etc, etc. They just say, tata, yeah. So if you are experienced like me, you know you have told them enough, they don't want to hear more. Madam Speaker, that is not meant to be language, but it is meant to deliver the message. This is serious. And I will be moving this Senate, not just for purposes of Kakamega. I'll move this Senate, Madam Speaker, to make a decision on what we shall do. Because in all the counties, you find a new governor comes in and pop into the dustbin the ongoing projects. It is happening in Kiambu, across the road here. It happens in your home in Muranga. It is in Kakamega. It is in the home of my in-laws in Kisii. In fact, in Kisii, it is terrible. Senator Arati went there and even found, 46 vehicles driven by 400 drivers. The rot in counties, we are failing. We must put our good brothers and sisters under a very huge microscope. This cannot continue. Otherwise, we will just be saying devolution was meant to message the ego and pleasures of the high and mighty. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I strongly support the motion. Sorry, I was the seconder. You know, Madam Speaker, I was confused by my daughter here. Where has she gone? She told me she was going to second, then I support. I strongly second the motion. Thank you, Senator Mungatana. That's why I always love to know that you always listen to me.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the county government's additional allocations cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 16th February 2023, and that pursuant to Section 17(7) of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order 189-3, the Senate approves the county government's additional allocations cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2022-2023. I call upon senators to now make a contribution to the motion. I begin with Senator Essie Ekinyuri. Is she here? She's there. Senator Danson Mungatana.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I first of all want to state on the onset that I support this motion, and I have listened carefully, Madam Speaker, to the mover of this motion, the Honorable Senator Robert, the chair of this committee, and I want to record my thanks, Madam Speaker, for the industry and the effort they put as a committee to make sure that this report is presented in good time so that the disbursement can be done timeously. Madam Speaker, I also want to pay my respects to my honorable colleague who seconded this motion, the one and only Senator Khalwale, and he raised many issues, Madam Speaker, that are relevant. Madam Speaker, I wanted to note that in this passing of this motion, there is 163 million that is conditional grant on the supplement of the construction of county headquarters, which is the first bit. Madam Speaker, this is important to us in Tana River County. And if you look into the report, Madam Speaker, you will see that there are 4 counties that are going to benefit from this particular allocation. One of them was Tana River, the other one was Lamu, the other one was Isiolo and Nyandarua. Madam Speaker, this 163 million will come and help Tana River County finish the construction of the county headquarters. Madam Speaker, I feel very embarrassed many times when you visit other county headquarters and you see they have beautiful buildings which are housing the head of the county government. Madam Speaker, if you watched even in the last dispensation, the county government of Machakos, Madam Speaker, a beautiful building and beautiful work that was going on in that county. Madam Speaker, when you come to Kitui, who is our neighbor in Tana River, when you come to Kilifi County, you will see that they have finalized on the construction of the county headquarters. In Tana River County, Madam Speaker, we have not finalized this, and it is my hope, Madam Speaker, that we shall benefit as it is intended, and we hope that with this bunch, then we shall get out of being left behind, as it were, because it seems it's only 4 counties that had not finished in the construction of their county headquarters, and Tana River being one. Therefore, the message we are sending to the governor and the county government is that we are passing this money and we want to see results on the ground. We want to see proper building, relocation of staff to the correct place so that the working environment can be good for our county. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill so that this money is made available as soon as possible in accordance with the schedule that has been proposed here on the 15th of March and on the 15th of April in those 2 batches that the chairman of this committee, Finance, has proposed. Madam Speaker, I also noted that the second bit of the allocation is 17.15 billion, which is conditional allocations financed from proceeds of loans and grants from development partners. And Madam Speaker, from this report, you will note there is the allocation from World Bank Credit for National Agricultural and Rural Inclusive Growth Project, the NARIGIP project. There is the World Bank Credit for National Agricultural Value Chain Development Project. There is a World Bank Credit for Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project. There is the World Bank Project for Water and Sanitation. There is the World Bank Credit Facility for Locally Led Climate Action, and so on and so forth. Madam Speaker, I wanted to bring to the attention of this House what our President has been championing. Madam Speaker, I speak as the head of the delegation of Pan-African Parliament, and I wanted us to look at what is happening when we access this credit. The chairman of Finance has not told us what is happening. The global north in the world generally has been very unfair as to us who are in the global south. Madam Speaker, the World Bank, being one of the Bretton Woods organs, the Bretton Woods agencies, they have been, believe it or not, giving credit to the global north at something like 0.01%, and you access a big facility for development in your country. When you come to the global south, let's say Kenya wants to access the same facility, Tanzania wants to access the same facility, Zambia wants to access the same facility, you will find that Kenya will go to the same Bretton Woods institution
and you will be given the same facility but at 10% loan, Madam Speaker. That means when Kenya is repaying this loan, when Zambia is repaying this loan, when Tanzania is repaying this loan, we are repaying it at 100 times the amount of money that USA will pay, France will pay, Canada will pay. The global north has rigged the financial system against the global south. And Madam Speaker, I was very proud to see President RUTO taking up this issue at the African Union in the recently concluded meetings. Madam Speaker, we need to ask these questions, not only in this parliament, not only at the continental level, even at the international level. Something is wrong. We are being told we are backward, we are behind. Kenya is being told you have loans and you are not doing well. But then I go to the same institution, you give the USA at 0.01%. And then I go to the same institution as Kenya, you give me at 10%. Meaning, if I'm taking $100 million facility, I will pay 100 times more than what the US will pay. How fair is this situation to the countries in Africa? How fair is this situation to Kenya? So, Madam Speaker, as we celebrate the giving of these facilities to us, we must start questioning what we can do to raise our own sources of revenues. We must start talking as Africa where we can get money. Let us involve more the African Development Bank. Let us involve the infrastructure and the multilaterals that are based in Africa, rather than working with institutions like World Bank and other multilaterals that are rigged against us. And Mr. Speaker, the problem with the Senate in Kenya, the problem with the Parliament, the National Assembly in Kenya, they have no idea what is happening. We have a problem, and we must consistently fight to restructure the global financial institutions that have been rigged against the global south. We must continue this battle. And I'm very proud, very, very proud to see our president, having understood the issues as they are, debating these things, raising these things at the African level, the AU functions. And we pray that this will continue. Madam Speaker, as I make my contribution here, I want to state again, it is time we look again at our debt level. This country needs to find a way in raising our own money so that we don't have to go to these Western institutions that have really impoverished us. They say they are helping us, but in actual fact, they are helping their brothers and their sisters in the Western world. They say they are here, they are giving us aid, and they want us to celebrate, but in actual fact, they are making money out of us. Because when you charge me 100 times more than when you charge another country in the West, you are actually riding on our back. And we need to discuss even the loans that have been paid by this country and the loans that we are servicing. Madam Speaker, as we thank these people who have helped us so far, we need to ask ourselves questions. What can we do as Africa? What can we do as a country? So, Madam Speaker, I want to urge this Senate, as we pass this report, to think again. There are initiatives that this administration and the President RUTO has started. When we talk about the national lottery, when we talk about the hustler movement, when we talk about creating a culture of saving for this country, let us support these initiatives, because these people are also giving us money from what they saved from their own finances. Let us raise that culture of saving so that we can borrow from within our resources, so that our country does not go to more debt, so that our country is not exposed to discrimination by the World Bank and other Bretton Woods institutions. Madam Speaker, this is the way that we are going to help this country grow, and this country will not grow from these loans. And it is another thing that my learned friend, my colleague, the Honorable Kalale has talked about. This money is expensive that we are taking. We are praying that the governors who will receive this money from all the 47 counties, now this is the 17.159 billion. This money will be used well. We want the governors to know that we are borrowing this money. These monies are being borrowed from World Bank. They are being borrowed at 100 times more than what Britain is paying, because these are their institutions. These are institutions that are making them richer and richer. So let us not misuse these monies. Please, the governor of Tana River and the other governors, let us not misuse this money. Have a heart for the people of your county. Use this money for the benefit of the people. This is not free money. This is not government allocations. This is not direct money. This is money we are borrowing, and we are borrowing it 100 times more than what the UK and Britain, what the UK and the US and France and Germany, at the rate they access this money from these Bretton Woods institutions. So use this money fairly for the benefit of the people. And we as senators, don't feel bad when we come for you, because when we are coming for you, we are aware that this money is expensive. And when you misuse this money, we shall come for you at that county level. And it is not politics, because some people think when we are doing our oversight, when Honorable Kalwale is saying that there's been so many billions pumped into Kakamega and the money is not being seen on the ground. When I stand to say the same thing for Tana River County, people start thinking that you want those kind of seats. No. As senators, we know these monies are difficult to access. We know these monies are expensive. And when it comes to the people, we want these monies to be used for the purpose for which we borrowed it and we approved it, for them to come to you. I hope governors somewhere are listening. I hope CECs somewhere are listening, that if this money is misused and it comes back to us through the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate, we shall not be very kind to those people who will be found to have misused these monies. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to again support and congratulate the chairman for the work they have done in this committee. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mungatana. I now call upon Senator Tobiko Pesi-Peris to contribute to this motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, let me congratulate the mover of the motion, Senator Ali Roba, party leader, because of the good job that the committee has done. Madam Speaker, and also congratulate the President for passing, signing this into law. Madam Speaker, at the moment, our counties are at crossroads. Majority of our counties, particularly those in the ASAL areas, Madam Speaker, are going through unprecedented drought and famine, Madam Speaker, a situation whereby right now what we are facing is starvation of the population. Madam Speaker, because of this, I am glad that Kajiado County is one of the beneficiaries of the additional revenue, Madam Speaker, conditional revenue, Madam Speaker. And we, just like the earlier speakers have said, our counties cannot afford. We don't have the luxury for this money to be spent on other things, and unless it is the necessities of that county, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we know our counties in the, are battling, our people are battling with cancer in the hospitals. Our people are battling with, kidney failures. The health sector, Madam Speaker, has become extremely expensive, And the more the facilities we have in our hospitals will be the better for the people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know, when we have a situation like what we are facing in the country right now, it calls for austerity measures. It calls for prudent spending, Madam Speaker. It calls for projects to be prioritized, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, because of that, we expect all governors to really be careful in the expenditure of this money, to remember that we will pay very expensively for these loans, and to know that the people are very, very needy, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in our counties at the moment, you find that children are not even going to school. And they're not going to school because they are not energetic enough. There is no food at home, and there is no food in schools, Madam Speaker. Over the weekend, I had parents coming to my home and saying, we are not sending our kids to school because if there was food in school, they would go. But we'd better stay with them at home. Not that there is food at home, but because there is no choice, Madam Speaker. And so for every project the governors will put into this money, there must be priority needs, Madam Speaker. Water is a crucial issue right now in our counties. In this time when even boreholes are going dry, Madam Speaker, drought mitigation measures, including relief food, both in schools and to the communities. Madam Speaker, these are the things we expect the governors to address as a matter of priority, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, I arise to support and also to urge governors to be careful in the spending of this money, and for the national government to be prompt in disbursement of the same funds, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have gone, as the devolution committee, we've gone to a number of counties, and we realize sometimes we blame the governors, we blame the county executives, but the problem lies with the disbursement from Treasury, that they are not receiving these monies on time, and so governors are put in very awkward situations, Madam Speaker. And so we will also call upon Treasury to have prompt release of these funds to the counties so that it can benefit the people. Madam Speaker, this also brings me to another issue of, you know, the tug of wars going on between the county assemblies and the governors. And it is not so much on delivery of services. You find counties and governors are still, you know, they are still stuck in the general elections, whereby by now Kenya should move on. Kenya should move on because elections were done and finished. Just like in the national level, we do not understand what our good colleagues in the minority side are still, you know, fighting about, being restless about the Azimio rallies that are going on that we do not understand, when the country is in dire need. When the country is facing a situation, even those they are calling upon to come for these rallies can barely come because people cannot even get enough food, leave alone money for transport around, you know, to follow the party leaders to Machakos and every other place, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, I would urge the governors to concentrate on the work that they were given. They were elected. Let them concentrate on the work that they were given. Let them work with the national government that is duly elected. Let them work with the President of the Republic of Kenya. Let us move as a country and let us prioritize the needs of our people who at the moment are facing very difficult situations, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, will urge our counties to make sure that schools are given priority, the ECD programs. Madam Speaker, you have seen, the most unfortunate situation of the ECDE teachers who, the salary commission the other day have said that they be paid around 8,000, 10,000, maximum 15,000. Which, Madam Speaker, is really on the lower side. Not that I'm encouraging this money to be used for recurrent expenditure, but Madam Speaker, the governors should also take care of their staff so that we do not have a situation whereby people, the ECD teachers cannot even deliver, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my encouragement to the governors is that they should concentrate on development. They should concentrate on the situations right now that are facing most of our counties. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you, Senator. Now I call upon Senator Esther Anyen Okenyu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to support this report by the able chair, Captain Roba. Mine would, I've actually had a look at my county. We are beneficiaries of the same, but I want to give a general call for action from the county chiefs in the 47 counties that we should really embark on an own source revenue action whereby we are generating our own revenue, and as much as we are benefiting from these conditional grants and disbursements from the national government, we need to avoid wastage in form of corruption and stiffer penalties on people who are found culpable, because currently we have desperate people out there who are in dire need of these services. Devolution came to ensure that services get closer to the people. But what we are seeing now, services are getting closer to the people, but they are not being able to benefit because of wastage of these resources. We have county chiefs who are also over-promising on what their counties can generate. As a result, we are having so many pending bills and thereby not being able to pay suppliers who are ordinary Kenyans in this manner and looking to get their payments so that they can support their families. So mine, Madam Speaker, is to support the report, yes, but urge county chiefs in the 47 counties to minimize on wastage and stiffer penalties applied on people who will be found culpable of these activities that are contributing to losses, knowing very well this money is borrowed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Esther. Now we'll have Senator David Wakoli Wafula.
Asante Speaker kwa fursa hii ambayo mmenipa kuchangia hususan mada ya kuangazia pesa zinazokwenda mashinani. Tunapopiga kurunzi mashinani, kuna kaunti ambazo kwa sasa zimeshindwa kuwapa wakulima pembejeo na mbegu za ukulima kwa sababu fedha hazipo. Na hizi pesa zitakapoachiliwa, natumai kwamba wakulima watapewa nafasi bora, wanawake, mayatima, ili waweze kujipanga katika msimu huu wa upanzi. Vile vile, serikali imetoa mfumo mpya wa kutoa kidato cha 7 cha 8 hadi shule za upili, na hivi kwamba inahitajika miundombinu ambayo kwayo watoto wataweza kupata madarasa, kupata madawati na vitabu. Vyote hivi vinahitaji pesa ili yote yawezekane. Katika sekta ya kilimo, tunajua kwamba kuna sekta mbalimbali ama viwango mbalimbali ambavyo serikali imeweka pesa. Lakini lazima tujue kwamba pale ndani kuna kupe katika serikali hizi ambazo kwazo hujificha katika miradi hii na kupunja pesa za wakulima. Ningependa kuwaraiba waziri wa kilimo na serikali za kaunti kwamba sisi kama Senate tutamulika hawa watu, tutawapuliza dum kuhakikisha kwamba pesa za kaunti zinafanya kazi kwa mujibu wa sheria. Nikimalizia, pesa hizi zitakapofika ni kuhakikisha kwamba vile vile kuna mustakabali mwema kati yetu na magavana na serikali za kitaifa, serikali ya kitaifa. Sasa sitarajii kwamba watakapopata pesa wakose kulipa pesa ambazo zinaenda kwa halmashauri ya afya, halmashauri ya kijamii NSSF, na vile vile kulipa ushuru, kwa sababu tumeona katika vitabu vya hesabu kwamba wafanyikazi wa serikali wanalipwa mishahara, lakini pesa zinakazoenda katika kulipa ushuru katika serikali ama kugharamia matibabu katika sekta ya afya hazitumwi katika NHIF. Sasa tunataka pesa hizi zitakapokuja, hao wafanyikazi vile vile wapewe haki yao kwa kulipa ushuru, NHIF na NSSF, haya madeni yaondolewe. Nikimalizia, kuna wachapakazi wa kandarasi ambao kwa muda mrefu pesa zao hazijalipwa. Haiwezekani tuwe tunawapa pesa kila uchao lakini hawalipi madeni ya wafanyikazi wanakandarasi. Sasa tutakapotoka hapa vile vile tutataka kuhakikisha kwamba mfumo wa bottom up, wale wachapakazi wa mashinani walipwe pesa zao, wale ambao katika ratiba ya mwaka 2023-24 wapewe pesa zao, ili kwa pamoja tusonge mbele na tuimarishe nchi yetu ya Kenya. Asante sana.
Thank you, Senator. We will now have Senator Samson Cherargei contributing to this motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to thank the committee for the good job that they have done, that is in line with the provisions of Chapter 12, where this motion has originated from, Madam Speaker. And also to thank the new senator from Bungoma. I didn't know the people from Bungoma speak fluent and good Kiswahili. So maybe, Madam Speaker, in future, you should be challenged to also be doing proceedings through Kiswahili, because we have translated our standing orders in Kiswahili, and I know our secretariat have been very efficient in terms of ensuring. Madam Speaker, 2 points, opening remarks is that this issue of disbursement, you know, Madam Speaker, I sit in Public Accounts Committee, and the biggest elephant in the room when you look at the Audit General and audit queries, financial statements of the counties, financial reporting, is because there is delayed disbursement from the National Treasury. I remember, Madam Speaker, at some point we wanted to sanction the former CS of Treasury, because most of the time, and I think the current Treasury should be watching this, and most of the time they like violating Article 219. That says a county share of revenue shall be raised by the national government, shall be transferred to the county without undue delay and without deduction, except when the transfer has been stopped under Article 2225. And there is a process on how you can stop those allocation of funds, Madam Speaker. So most of the counties, you know, it's hard for us to do our oversight job. You call a governor, Madam Speaker. You ask, for example, Muranga Governor, our good brother, Senator Irungu Kangata, who was our whip and my good friend. You ask, what did you do in Maragua or in Kiharu or in Mugoiri? What did you do this road from this point to another? Madam Speaker, it is sad when you ask them about budget performance and control. They are not able to observe maybe 2 billion, 1 billion in development, especially on development budget. It is because of violation of Article 219, where the National Treasury is not keen on following the provision of the Constitution, Madam Speaker. And therefore, even as we pass this, the National Treasury and the government agencies must work to ensure that the money is disbursed as appropriated, Madam Speaker. And even, I think county assemblies also should work very hard, because even the law provides that they should pass those budget estimates and others within the county assemblies, especially Article 224 on county appropriation bills, They should pass and ensure. I know, Madam Speaker, most county assemblies now, or county, when they are passing county budgets, they don't have a problem because most of them, Madam Speaker, before, especially in the third Senate and the first and second Senate, there was a big challenge. Not the first, I can see we are they were not the 60s, but from 2013, is that most of the budgets were being returned by control of budget, were being rejected. But I'm happy with the capacity of building county assemblies, at least the processing of budgets for county executive and county assemblies, Madam Speaker, is becoming much more easier. The third point, Madam Speaker, I wanted to move is that, I'm not moving the bill, to state, is that we need to relook about financial autonomy of county assemblies. That's a soft underbelly in terms of our primary oversight, Madam Speaker. We need to give them financial autonomy as per the PMF Act. Madam Speaker, can you believe the governor of Murang'a, or governor of Nairobi, or governor of Nandi, the CCM in charge of finance as per the PMF Act, gets the money through CRF and their bank account here in the National Treasury. It is processed to the county government. Then the clerk of the county assembly makes a requisition for that money to be taken to the county assemblies. Then how do you expect MCAs to oversight? When the governor is holding, and that's why that's my brother, Senator Boni Halwale, to saying, you know, accountability in Kakamega, what was it? Those MCAs could not oversight. If they oversight, the governor will not give them the money. They'll go without salary, without car loans and mortgage, go without allowances. They will go, and you know, the MCAs are the first line of defense for wananchi who have small arambe's, baby showers, funeral committees, among other, Madam Speaker, even preparation of weddings in the villages. I don't know whether they also participate in preparation of bullfighting matches. But, Madam Speaker, the point I'm trying to make is that the CCM makes a requisition. And therefore, as a Senate, we must be ready to give financial autonomy to our county assemblies. So that, you know, and governors are mischievous. They can ask wananchi, MCAs wanted me to give them salary and allowance, and there is no medicine. Do you want me to buy medicine or to give MCAs money? Wananchi will become, say, buy medicine. What happens if a governor is summoned to appear or invited to appear before county assembly? They will use their power to withdraw and ensure accessibility, Madam Speaker. So I think there was a policy before, but we need to amend the PMF Act, and I appeal to the House, Madam Speaker, let us give financial autonomy to MCAs to be able to perform their duty. Madam Speaker, I've seen Nandi County, through the total conditional grants from the national government, which is provided for under Chapter 12 on Principles of Finance, is getting a total of, Nandi is getting a total of 153, 297, 872, and of course there is conditional leasing of medical equipment. But I'm Speaker, you know, this medical equipment, I once investigated with the Chair of Health, former Senator of Trans Nzoia, and we found this was an automatic rip-off. This medical leasing story about counties. Can you believe, Madam Speaker, and then counties were leasing syringes. Can you lease a syringe? They were leasing gloves. They were leasing bed sheets. Madam Speaker, this was an outright rip-off. And I expected the chair of, and you know he knows because he's a former governor and a current senator. I know now he's comfortable if I have told him former governor. I remember last time when I tried saying they are former governors, I was given a thorough engagement in the House. He's the former governor, Governor Senator Roba. This knows that was outright rip-off. So I expected him to demand and not to fear. Because I'm a Christian, I don't know whether it is in Quran also. They say, fear not. They should tell of, during budget, that we no longer want something called medical equipment supplies. Let the counties be given money for need assessment basis. If they want to buy kidney transplant machine, they can buy. If they want to buy any other machine, but not to lease syringes and gloves. And Madam Speaker, those contracts was queued and affected even our oversight and transparency and accountability, Madam Speaker. So on the issue of medical, and I can see Nandi is getting 153, and I think, Madam Speaker, number 4, or the 5th, is the issue of accountability is not negotiable. Governors should be told as much. When governors are demanding additional money, I have seen them making a lot of noise, shouting at us. I saw the Deputy President saying there is no additional we can not add. If you think you want to whip us, so whip us because the economy is not doing very well, Madam Speaker. I agree. But governors, I want governors to use the same energy to account for money the way they are demanding for more. Madam Speaker, I have sat and it is paining because the work of oversight, Madam Speaker, is I'm a mortician. We are doing a post-mortem on a dead, so our work is just being a mortician. We are looking after the fact. Because we come and look at the audit queries of Kakamega and ask what the Bugungu Stadium consumed. Who was the contractor? What was the scope of works, Madam Speaker? We are just morticians. We are operating on somebody that is already dead, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, governors, there is no option. And Madam Speaker, in issue of accountability, the biggest soft underbelly, and I don't fear to say this, is EACC. Ethics and anti-corruption are now part and partners of allegations of corruption within governance. Because when whistleblowers, Madam Speaker, and these are serious whistleblower, leave the others that were seeing an Azimio rallies, and you can see minority side have also run away because they are using fake whistleblower. Serious whistleblower that is under witness protection fund. When they report these issues to EACC, Madam Speaker, the EACC officers are rogue. They go and see the governor and show him the evidence, and then they also eat. That's why when you go to Mashinani and ask Wananchi, this thing has been reported to EACC, but no action has been taken. And when EACC arrests, they arrest clerks. They go for Omena instead of Mbuta or the big fish, Madam Speaker. And that is where the challenge of accountability lies. Because even as a committee, Madam Speaker, I know you will ask us. We table very nice reports, very good ones here before the floor. The Secretariat, your office of the Speaker has done a good job, facilitated our work. We table with serious recommendation, Madam Speaker. But when you table, there is no implementation mechanism. Instead of DCI, EACC, control of budget, or auditor general, even under Article 224, where, Madam Speaker, it is being demanded that a county that has violated the law, they should not receive any allocation, Madam Speaker. But they go ahead and become part, Madam Speaker, of this. And therefore, Madam Speaker, even for us who are believers, Madam Speaker, in the Holy Book, we must account, Madam Speaker. I know time is spent, but this is a serious matter. This is very important for this House. And I think I have 15 minutes or so. How many minutes to go? 10 minutes. Madam Speaker, we need to be honest, and I like and I'm happy the person who did this report is a former governor. So he was doing with an inside of understanding. When you look at another point, number 7, county supplement for construction of county headquarters, I want to thank, before looking at this 163 million, and I think, for example, Nandi, we are still ongoing with construction of county headquarters. Nyamira, Madam Speaker, we are still going construction of county headquarters. I think Tana River, a number of counties.
Senator Chadaligi, I don't want to interfere, but it's 6:23, yes. So we have few minutes. Bear that in mind as you continue submitting.
Oh, okay. No, Madam Speaker, I would have wished this conversation, even the people who boycotted the House should be here, because that's the reason why they are here. Because it's one, of course, yes, I understand, but so that we dispense of. So I want to thank for finally, Madam Speaker, the accountability question, the governors, they are not going to hide anywhere. No. Governor Oparanya tried to go in 2013 to court to block governors appearing. But the courts rule in our favor. I want to ask senators, the Supreme Court advisory and our role under Article 96 is very crystal clear, Madam Speaker. And therefore, even Nandi, for example, Madam Speaker, there is nothing going on. County headquarters are stalled. Kabiet Creameries, dairies, and I've seen Narek, Madam Speaker, it has consumed a lot of money. There is no value for in Kabiet. Kiborgok, for example, Madam Speaker, we have 256 acres, and that is on-source revenue. Counties are not being creative in terms of on-source revenue. For example, in Nandi, we have an estate called Kiborgok Tea Estate. That is 256, Madam Speaker. And it generates 13 million. 13 million, Madam Speaker, and I know you come from tea growing area. How can you tell me 256 acres generates only 13 million per year, Madam Speaker? And those are corruption that we must fight and ensure that every penny that is taken, Madam Speaker, to the county must be accounted for. And those projects, In fact, in Nandi, for example, Madam Speaker, 300 and something projects have stalled. And yet money has been consumed up to 300 million Kenya shillings, Madam Speaker. So governors, the way they are excited getting this allocation, they must also be excited and smiling when they come for accounting before the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. In the interest of time, Madam Speaker, so that we can dispense and send money in good time, Madam Speaker, I beg to support and thank the committee for the job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Chiralege. I will now call upon, there are no more requests for contribution. I'll call the mover of the motion to respond, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to take this opportunity to first and foremost extend my gratitude to the senators for the contribution they have given to this motion. You know, it is very important to understand that this money is not small amount. It is including the 163 million for construction of county headquarters. So you're looking at 17.319 billion shillings being released to the county governments within the next 3-4 months. Even in as far as the impact it will have in terms of circular flow of income in the country, because the 47 counties stand to benefit from this money, it is extremely critical and extremely important role and function of the Senate for us to be able to, you know, prosecute a matter that is so critical in terms of releasing additional money to county governments for purpose of making sure the county governments are able to do this function. I know we've had a bit of controversial issue that may have led to a number of our senators walking out. But to be very frank, Madam Speaker, this is a very, very critical, you know, function of a senator to understand that releasing additional funds to their counties needed, you know, something that they needed to look at the order paper and say, this one we must execute because time is running out, and be able to think beyond the issue of maybe political party and such other issues. It's very painful because as you know, a senator who has served as a governor for 2 terms, getting this money released very fast should be the interest of every senator in making sure the funds get to these counties. And this money is a lot as it is. I want to appreciate the senators that have really taken the time to respond and give their input, and we've taken note. And I you know, in the interest of time, beg to reply and request in line with the standing order number 66(3). Madam Speaker, I would like to request you to defer the putting of the question to a later date. And with that, I beg to reply. Thank you very much.
No, but this concerns counties, so it must go to division. Very good, your chairman. Now, do one after this, you are loyal troops. Now that you are that, your loyal troops are still in the house.
How to put it?
You will need delegation. Yeah, it concerns counties. Yeah, you need delegations. Yeah. So to adjourn member, to defer to education. How many divisions can we do tomorrow?
Honorable Senators, I want to thank you most sincerely, first beginning with the mover of this motion. Very important motion has been moved in Senate today on matters that are affecting the county, especially the budgets and the budget allocations. And Honorable Senators, it is now close to 6:30. And this motion is very important, and I will request that the same be listed in the order paper tomorrow. I would request that this matter be listed in the order paper for division to be called tomorrow, during tomorrow's session. And I believe now it is almost 6:30 and we will rise.